Has frontier AI become the most exciting place for scientific research?
Frontier AI is currently the most consequential place for research.
AI companies are now recruiting electricians and carpenters.
I think that's the opportunity, and maybe we see more people going in the trades in a year or two.
We are doing podcast 7. We have got some real good stuff coming up. You're also traveling this week. You're probably going to Alaska, so you have a busy week, right? One of the most interesting story, Tsimerman was awarded the Fields Medal, which is often described as the Nobel Prize of Mathematics. It's one of the highest honors the mathematician can receive. And at the same conference, he announced that he's leaving academia to join OpenAI safety team. When one of the world's leading mathematicians chooses to work on AI safety instead of pure mathematics, what message does that say?
Yeah, it's interesting because the obvious read is AI safety is moving from this niche concern to a huge priority for society, right? It's one that's going to demand individuals that are the elite of the elite. This talent pool is becoming very niche, but it's asking for really intelligent individuals that want to pursue intelligent, challenging problems. So, I'm excited for these and we've been talking about universities and startups, right? And the brain drain from one thing to another. So I find it interesting that those individuals are gravitating towards these challenges.
And he couldn't find a better time to announce it, right?
Yeah.
And this obviously is an interesting aspect. And we have been seeing and we have been discussing this for a long time. Has frontier AI become the most exciting place for scientific research?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I might not love the word exciting. That might be the wrong word for it. I think what's happening is frontier AI is currently the most consequential place for research, right? And the problems that these places are trying to solve are moving very fast, right? So exciting might not be the big thing, but it's driving people like Tsimerman that maybe have a fear of this is really urgent, right? This might not be exciting on an intellectual thing, but he might think this is the most important thing that I could be working on today.
And when we talk about the kind of exposure that he's going to get, is there a check and balance between the exposure that he's going to get in his academy and what he's going to do at these frontier labs?
I don't know how much he cares about exposure. Now, Tsimerman's an interesting cat. If you just YouTube him, you'll see kind of his personality. But I think he really wants to get behind the things that are the most important for our society right now and the problems to solve inside of that. So, I don't think he really cares too much about exposure, but I think he wants to move things forward.
And another thing we have coming up is AI companies are now recruiting electricians and carpenters by thousands. In fact, Meta has just allocated $115 million for what it says would be a multi-year commitment to train construction workers, starting with 5,000 participants. Do you think can we really accelerate skill trades at the same pace at which we are accelerating AI, or are we running into limits that technology cannot simply solve?
Yeah, I think we're finding the friction points or the weak links in all these systems, right? Doesn't matter how fast I want to make AI if I don't have chips or if I don't have helium or if I don't have the individuals with the boots on the ground to make things. So I think a blue collar revolution is super interesting right now, especially considering, a couple of years ago, we were talking about learn to code. And now we're saying, hey, you need to learn how to weld or you need to learn how to wire. The other challenging things, and we've heard maybe people say it takes 20 years to make an engineer. It's not that far off from the same thing. It takes 20 years to make a carpenter. It takes 20 years to make an electrician, if not longer. So are we behind that curve? If we want to have an intellectual revolution, it might require an industrial revolution. And are we skilled to handle that? And I would say that we probably don't. I think a lot of individuals have been not forcing might not be the right word, right? But encouraging their kids to go to college when if they were a heavy equipment operator, they would have a whole bunch of jobs right now clearing the ground for any of these things that are going on, right? If they encourage them to go to electrician school or apprenticeship, they would have so many opportunities, be it inside of these big companies, right? Doing that whole mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, the MEP stuff, or even if that revolution wasn't happening, you can still be an electrician for residential, right? There are a lot of opportunities for these blue collar individuals. And I think we're behind the curve on that.
And we were having this conversation earlier, and you said that an IBW apprenticeship requires 10,000 on the hours over 5 years. If we are trying to rush things, are we looking to lower standards and accept high failure rates?
So I would hope not. So I'm also in the contingent workforce for utility companies. There's a lot of times when big corporation can't keep up with something, right? Or an industry. But if I take the low hanging fruit, let's say this skill set, I can teach that skill set maybe in 2 weeks as a contingent workforce. Now, I'm only teaching them 1 or 2 things. I'm not teaching them how to handle absolutely every single thing that they might find in an electrical utility space, right? Or a water or gas utility space. So I think by focusing on what's the actual task that needs to happen, you can sometimes bring down what's going on. If I gave you a computer and you needed to learn Microsoft Excel, am I not going to let you do Excel until you know every formula in Excel? Or am I going to say, hey, here's how to add 2 things. Here's how to do a pivot table. And then when you need the next problem, let's worry about the next problem when we get to it. So I like their approach, and we do that same thing in our company, right? A 2-week training, a 3-week training, a 4-week training. And that handles a lot of the work that we have to do. But those individuals after my 2-week training are not an electrician, right? They can't handle large system gas systems for natural gas, right? Very focused. So I do like this short-term solution. The other cool thing that we say sometimes in our contingent workforce, because our projects last 2 to 4 years, let's say, for the most part. After that period, they've had a lot of time and playing things and seeing these problems. Sometimes they go to the trades. And I think that's the most exciting part. You get a time to play. I went to Drexel University. I started as a civil engineer. I did my first co-op, like a paid internship, as a civil engineer. I loved being out in the field, but I hated playing with dirt and concrete. My parents didn't know that there was a million different engineers that you could do, right? So we were like, oh, you want to do construction? You got to be a civil engineer. Not realizing that there's electrical engineers and mechanical engineers on these construction sites. But it took my first co-op to realize that I was going down the wrong path. So that's the cool thing. You get a 2-week or 4-week training. You go and do some hands-on. Maybe you work there for a year or 2. You're like, dude, I love this. Or hell no, I don't want to ever do this again. I think that's the opportunity, and maybe we see more people going in the trades in a year or 2.
And at least if we look at the brighter side, no one can say that AI is actually going to replace these jobs.
Not in the near future, right? Like, even if the most exciting thing happens, like, it is 5 to 10 years easily in a lot of these more complex things. Now, we might see small things, right? Like, my brother is a welder. There are small welding machines that are very good at specific kinds of materials, and you just clamp them on the pipe and it does the things, right? But it might take a skilled individual to kind of get it in the right location, do these things. You look at surveyors. Surveyors use tremble machines, these fancy machines to measure out where everything is in space when we're doing these construction sites, right? Like, so I think it will, and we've talked about this before with the firefighters and search and rescue and all those things, right? The ability to elevate and multiply a skill set, just like we're using with these agents, right? When we send out these swarms, that will be pretty interesting, even with our thing. But I mean, like, humanoid robots out in the field is probably not as soon as maybe I would like to see it, but it's also, that's a good thing. It gives us some time to figure out how disruptive this technology is going to be.
And then we have, obviously, no podcast is complete without China. We have one of the most futuristic stories coming out this week. A company called BrainCo demonstrated a brain-controlled robotics platform where someone wearing a lightweight EEG headset could control a robot arm simply by thinking about it. No joystick, no voice command, no physical movement. Seems like this is again talking about that Neuralink and that reality that we all are dreaming for. Who do you think will be most impacted in the future?
Yeah, so it's not easy to get what's in here into our machines, right? Like, typing takes time. Even if you have Whisper Flow installed on your machine, it accelerates you, but you still need to talk. The other thing is, imagine if you are a disabled individual and you can't talk, right? Or maybe there's something wrong with your hands. Like, neither of those things solve the problem of getting what's in here into the machines. So I'm super excited for the individuals that haven't had access to this stuff because of some kind of physical impairment. And that's why I love Neuralink. This is nicer because it's lighter weight, right? Like, and there's probably going to be some resolution challenges with it. But if we can have something lightweight that doesn't need the complexity of what they're doing at Neuralink, that is wicked cool. Imagine the people that might be writing books in the future that can't talk, right? Or maybe they're missing their hands or some aspect, right? Like, that is really cool to think about that. I mean, Stephen Hawking, right? One of the smartest people in the world was elevated because of the machinery around him. So if we want to talk about like not extinguishing the light of intelligence or like elevating the light of intelligence that already exists in so many of us, I am super excited to see how individuals that have been like disenfranchised or disprivileged in some fashion being able to have access to the internet, have access to these tools. So I'm excited about it.
And this is obviously going to come in some point in future. You think, is it right to say that they are going to be the use cases, the first and foremost use cases of these AIs?
I think you're going to see two aspects, right? Obviously, Neuralink is going down that route, right? It's easier to, it's more invasive, right? So there's medical testing that's involved. And then there's the outlier geeks and nerds, right? That will want to see those things and buy and play with them. You might see that maybe in video games too, like if that resolution becomes at a level that gives you a competitive advantage, I think you're going to see it inside of those things. I don't think I'm going to see my mom drive to Best Buy because she's super excited about getting a new smart keyboard, right? So I think that's where you'll see it in the disabled individuals and you'll see it in the geeks, which I'm excited about. I fall into that latter one.
Yeah, definitely. You'll be probably the first one to drive and buy it. Now we have got the airlines involved with AI, and surprisingly in the most interesting way. So airlines are increasingly using AI to adjust ticket prices more quickly, capturing more revenue, reducing the pricing gap that traditionally travelers used to find cheaper fares. At first, if I looked at it, I thought, okay, this is just an example of dynamic pricing, but there's a distinction, and we can see it's kind of a scenario of surveillance pricing. What do you think about that? Can you put some light on dynamic pricing and surveillance pricing?
If you haven't heard those terms before, right? Dynamic pricing is just taking generalized market data, let's say seasonal or competitive, like your competitors' fares or like demand curves, right? That's dynamic pricing. Surveillance pricing is using an individualized data to calculate what each specific person's pain point is, right? How much is Jurgen willing to pay for this versus somebody else? That's surveillance. And that is what is icky about this whole thing, right? It's not a fair market if one person is paying more for another thing and they're both going at it at the same time. It's different if, hey, you're buying the day before and there's a lot of demand, right? That's just generic dynamic pricing. So a lot of this has a taste or a feel of almost using AI to extract wealth from other individuals as fast as possible. And I don't love that like extraction accelerator. It just makes me feel wrong about the whole process.
And when you talk about surveillance pricing, looking into what others can pay versus what you can pay, is that the factor that they take and then they price it? If you are looking to pay higher, then they pitch it to you, and as compared to not pitching it to others, is that what they are trying to do over here?
Exactly. So like if you, and keep in mind, this probably doesn't affect most individuals, but if you went to Facebook Marketplace and you wanted to do an advertisement, you can say, I want to advertise to men over 50 in this zip code that make $120,000 or more, right? That you're starting to get into subsets, right? So now if you know, hey, this individual statistically probably makes six figures, right? Let's try to see if his pain point, because he might say discretional income, yeah, I'm going to pay twice as much for this airfare because that money doesn't mean as much to me, right? My willingness to pay might be higher. So that's unfortunate, right? Because an airfare from Philadelphia to Phoenix should be relatively the same price. Imagine if you got into a taxi and they saw, hey, you're a white male, I'm going to charge you this rate. Or you're a black male, I'm going to charge you this rate. Or you're wearing a suit, I'm going to charge you this rate. You're wearing shorts and running gear, I'm going to charge you this rate. That's where it's creepy. And we have to keep with dynamic. Now, if you got into a taxi cab after a major sporting event has gotten out, that's different, right? That's dynamic, right? The supply and demand has changed. I don't care what color you are when you get into my car. So that's the problem with surveillance pricing.
Another news is physical AI is apparently now a national security. White House has been busy this week. They have reportedly released a document that groups robotics with AI as a critical national capability. And this tells us that the governments are no longer seeing robots as a manufacturing equipment. They see them as an infrastructure, military, critical infrastructure. The AI Cold War is becoming a robotics Cold War. Are governments beginning to see robots less as a machine and more as a critical national infrastructure?
Yeah, when I read this article, the first thing that came up in my mind was when the conflicts in Russia were going on and Elon Musk or Tesla in general turning off Teslas in another country. I think that's what's the most scary. Imagine if even 10% of the vehicles in the United States were made by a foreign country. And if that foreign country could do what Tesla did and just turn them off because I don't like what you did in this other country, that would be very disruptive. Now, that's a big machine. We could go smaller and say, like, what if it's a humanoid robot, right? I'm a small company, right? We got 500 people. And we're excited about robotics because we might want to use them in our warehouse. Let's say I buy 5 robots and I use them in my warehouse. If some foreign entity doesn't like what the U.S. is doing or doesn't like the U.S. president, maybe I didn't even vote for the president, right? They don't like the U.S. president. They turn off all of their robots in the United States. That would shut down my operations, right? I would have to go out and try to hire someone. Like, it is very disruptive just in that sense. So, and like what we're seeing with Lucid, right? Lucid's the electric car company made in the United States, but some of its software is made internationally. So that was a security risk. It's unfortunate, but I don't know what the best solution is.
And when you talk about it can be disastrous, is it from the economic standpoint you are saying that, or is it a loss of everything when that happens?
My first gut reaction is the societal impact and the economic impact, right? I think very fast you could turn something into, like, look at COVID. COVID affected all of us globally just because of a small little hiccup. The things with chip shortages, right? That affects everyone all over the place really fast. So it's the butterfly effect. A small change can be very, very big. And I'm just talking about the easy things of turning off a light switch and the light switch being your car. I'm not talking about a foreign entity trying to take over your car and try to run it into a crowd. I'm just talking about the super simple thing of just turning the light switch off on your car. And that scares the heck out of me, let alone everything else that you can do even after that.
And all that Terminator thing that we can, imagine and talk about that, okay, this can happen and they turn the robots against us. But do you think...
One thing on that, like, what it would be interesting if a foreign entity wants to use your AI in a negative sense, but the AI is almost Buddhist in its mindset to be like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I don't care that you asked me to do that, to drive this car I just won't do it. It's just like if you go on the Claude and you try to ask it to help you make a biological weapon. Like, I don't care that you're asking me to do this. So it'll be interesting if AI helps us, even though there's bad actors.
And do you think when we are taking these decisions, and obviously they are happening at a very quick rate, like it's happening in a couple of hours and another decision is coming, are we moving at the right path that, okay, the only solution is like the FCC has come up with some rules and how they are going to ban the robots and everything? Are we moving on the right path that, okay, that is the only solution, ban it?
I think right now, slow is the better option for many things. Is it the better option? I don't know what would be better right now. I also don't know that we're acting fast enough. I think robots have been around for a little, simple robots, right?
Yeah.
Robot vacuum cleaners didn't come this last week. The things that have happened in AI have, but I've had a robot vacuum cleaner for I don't know how long. I was able to, so there was someone in the DC area that had a robot lawnmower. He was moving and he needed to get rid of the thing really fast. I picked up a robot lawnmower for super cheap. Robots are very available for a certain economic class, right? Still a very privileged position to say even to get a $500 robot to vacuum clean your house when individuals are struggling paycheck to paycheck. So I think we probably should have had some thought about this stuff when robot vacuum cleaners were a little bit more prevalent, because those little machines have cameras on them and they're just driving around your house. And I make it do stuff when I'm not home, because it's not disruptive. But there's literally nothing stopping it to be like, okay, let me just surveil his whole interior of his house while he's gone and nobody is watching what I'm doing. So And it's all on the internet. So it's very interesting. I think we're a little late to the game.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the magnitude. If they just record it and start uploading it and maybe use it as a training data for their own models.
Now, the thing is, I'm boring. I'm sure that there's no foreign entity that has any curiosity about what's in my house.
Yeah.
But if I was a political leader, even a political leader of a small town, the influence that maybe you could wield over someone or blackmail over somebody could be disruptive. And it's capable of doing that right now.
Yeah. And there's no AI in it. It's just a simple robot.
I mean, I love AI to make dumb things, right? And dumb things can be very disruptive really fast, right? Yeah. A work order management system, a to-do list. There's nothing really smart about any of that stuff. But a to-do list, even a simple piece of paper with a to-do list with little square check boxes you check off, can be a very empowering or disruptive or influential tool in the right hands.
This is where the FCC's ban comes into. And this is what they are saying, and I quote, "The FCC's updated ban defines advanced robotic device as mechanical mobile device capable of locomotion, obstacle avoidance, navigation, and movement on the ground. Any device that weighs more than 4.4 points and either feature a sensor capable of perceiving its environment, component that offers Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or cellular connectivity, or software that controls device navigation is supposed to be banned." By these definitions, many at-home robot cleaners may be falling under that ban. Is this like the new normal?
I mean, think about it. Anything that's 5 pounds can move around your house and has connection to the internet. That is a very powerful little piece of machinery now. Look at how Ukraine is using small little drones in its war, right?
Yeah.
So it is super interesting that we all have these little digital creatures maybe in our houses that can do stuff. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's unfortunate that we weren't thinking about this problem sooner. It's good that we're thinking about it now. But I mean, we've seen politicians, they hardly know how Facebook is working, let alone a robot, right? If you said LiDAR to them, you said Wi-Fi, like they might not know what any of those terms really mean and struggle with it. I don't think this is necessarily a wrong move. I also love the concept of let's get some of this stuff onshore. I work in the utility space. Almost everything we do has to be onshore. It is too risky to have offshore things because then someone else can kick some sand and disrupt my operations. And we're too vital of a thing. So now when your house is being run by robots, when your car is being run by robotics, that is too disruptive. It needs to be regulated and it needs to be onshore. So I like that. I also am happy that we do have a US-based company. Whether you like Tesla or not is a different conversation. But the fact that we have a company in the US that's making electric vehicles and making robotics on our shore does safeguard us a little bit. Are we moving at the pace that we want? No, I wish we were doing more innovation. I think there are definitely companies in China, be it with cars or be it with drones, that are so much more advanced. We are already seeing the ripple effects of what was going on with the drone ban.
Yeah.
DJI is not allowed to sell drones. DJI has a monopoly. Now, some people can kick me in the shins and say, no, they don't. There's other great, but there is not a competitive environment with that right now. From their cameras to their motors to it's just amazing what they're able to do. And competition, I think, is a good thing. I don't love the fact that DJI took over the world with that. I wish there was a US-based company. There was many US-based companies that tried it, from other camera operators to other things, and they all struggled with it. So I would love to see robotics come more onshore, at least in the United States. And you've seen it also in your country, right? Your country also doesn't love the fact of foreign entities having their systems inside their own country. It could be disruptive.
And on a completely, it's not related, but it does give a local manufacturing boost. It does give a boost to the economy that, okay, everything is built in-house, grown in-house, and let's just use it, as compared to being dependent on third or foreign entities or foreign equipment. So that is also a good point to this.
Yeah, one other thing that I think, talking about being short-sighted, right? We should have done this a couple of years ago. Yeah. It's great to say we want to manufacture all of this in the United States, or we want to manufacture it all in India or whatever. Where do we get the material from?
China.
Like, you go down the feedstock of where, like, where do we stop? Like, I'm not going to take, like, am I going to start mining all this stuff in the United States? Like, I don't know where you draw the line, and all of a sudden you feel like, we've done a difference, and now we have national security
issues, and we have laws coming almost every week now.
Yeah, I think it was a good conversation over a lot of interesting topics. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, same here. Likewise.